Okay, everybody, David Paul with you. Busy day in the tropics. Let's get to it. Hurricane Fiona about to make landfall. Nova Scotia going to take a hard hit tonight. And then we've got TD number 9, which is likely to become Ian in the Caribbean this weekend. So Alex, Bonnie, Colin, Danielle, Earl, Fiona, Gaston, that's 7. Hermine, 8. Hermine is the new one off the coast of Africa. And then Ian likely to be number 9 as we head into and over the weekend. There are currently 5 spots we're watching. It's turned into a busy September. Fiona heading north toward Nova Scotia, Newfoundland. Gaston now heading away from the Azores as a tropical storm. Hermine's the new named system on Friday off the west coast of Africa. This one's going to move north and into the open Atlantic. Does not look like it's going to impact any land. 30% chance that wave develops. And then TD number 9, this became a tropical depression number 9 today in the Caribbean. That one likely to become Ian. We'll do a big dive into that here in just a moment. Quick update on Fiona. Still a major hurricane, Cat 3, racing north at 46 miles an hour. So not only does this have winds wrapping around the center at 125, add 46 miles an hour on the right-hand side of that circulation, and you've got a storm that will have sustained winds on the coast of Newfoundland, Nova Scotia at 160, 170 miles an hour. It's going to be a very, very hard hit here tonight. And this is going to end up being one of the strongest systems on record for the northeastern maritime of northeastern Canada. So here's Halifax, here's Cape Breton, St. John's, Corner Brook. Here's the storm. What we're looking at are the upper level winds that have pulled this back onto Newfoundland and Nova Scotia instead of kicking it out into the open Atlantic. They're also divergent at the upper levels, which is enhancing convection within the system. That's going on at 250 millibars. Down at the surface, here's the center. So what are we? It's 8:30 Central Time, so it's 9:30. At 9:30, the center of Fiona is 178 miles from the coast of Nova Scotia between Halifax and Cape Breton. Cape Breton looks like you're going to take a direct, very hard hit from this storm. Wave heights off here at 40, 50, 60-foot waves. So the coast is going to be battered as well this evening. And again, 125-mile-an-hour sustained winds at the center, moving north at 46. So you add 46 to 125 on the right-hand side. As it's racing north, counterclockwise rotation on the right-hand side, you add that wind speed to it. And so we're just going to have a very, very, very hard hit here with winds at 160, 170, sustained at times on the coast near Cape Breton tonight. Wind field moves inland. This is 4:30 a.m. That may be when we see the worst of the winds across the eastern portion of Nova Scotia. But Halifax around the backside, you're going to see Cat 1 winds, yellow's Cat 1s, orange Cat 2, Cat 3 winds in red. Moves inland as we head into Saturday, 11:30 in the morning. So near lunchtime Saturday, it does hit the western side of Newfoundland, Burgeo. I hope I'm saying that correctly. You guys could see some very strong Cat 1, Cat 2 hurricane force winds here with waves battering the coast during the day on Saturday. Winds rapidly died down, but still at tropical storm force as we head into Sunday afternoon north of St. Augustine. In the Caribbean, it is now tropical depression number 9. The system has remained relatively disorganized today, but it has been able to close off a circulation. It has made a little bit of a jog to the north. It's now in the central part of the Caribbean Sea. Max sustained winds at 35 miles an hour, moving west-northwest at 15 miles an hour. And I wanted to show you the visible satellite from today because this kind of tells the story as to exactly what's going on. That's the sun setting on Friday evening. So there's the circulation center. It's exposed. So two things. You can see there's clearly a closed low. That's why it reached tropical depression status. We have a closed surface circulation. But the circulation's been exposed. In other words, the deep convection, the thunderstorms, the brighter cloud tufts have been displaced by wind shear cutting across the system during the day today. So until we get that low-level center underneath the deep convection, we won't see pressures falling. They're still relatively high at 1,006 millibars. But if you notice, and we'll let this run one more time, I want you to watch, as we went through the day and got close to sunset, that low-level swirl did start to tuck underneath the convection. There's the center, There it is, getting closer, and then here towards sunset, the center actually does get covered up by the deeper convection. So that is a clear sign that this storm is probably going to strengthen fairly rapidly during the weekend as it moves across the Caribbean. So let's look at this forecast from the Hurricane Center. So Jamaica, you miss a direct hit from what would be Tropical Storm Ian. Here it is Sunday, 1 in the morning. Here it is Sunday, 1 in the afternoon. So on that type of trajectory, Jamaica, you'd have winds coming out of the east. You'd have east-southeast winds and probably get some pretty decent rain out of it, but that would be the worst of it. The waves and the wind not too terribly bad. It would be weak tropical storm force. However, Cayman, as this storm intensifies, it's going to be getting near Cat 1 hurricane force as we reach you going into Sunday night and early Monday morning for the Cayman Islands. And then it races across the western tip of Cuba, and then they take the center of the cone west of Key West. This is going into Tuesday. We'll get a closer look at the timing here in a second. But remember, the forecast cone, it's statistically just as likely that the storm will be on the east side of the cone as it will be on the west side of the cone. So even though this is perhaps the best forecast in the middle, statistically the cone is all one entity. It's got the same percentage of being to the left-hand side of the center or the right-hand side of the center. So Key West, you're in play for a possible direct hit. That's Tuesday. And then we go into Wednesday. Here's Wednesday afternoon, and we're forecasting this to go to Cat 3. Wind sustained at 115 as it perhaps makes landfall between Tampa and Fort Myers. But again, that's the center of the cone. It's tough to do, but don't just look at the center. Statistically, the same chance that it could be out on the left-hand side of the cone or over on the right-hand side of the cone. So everyone's in play for a possible hit from Miami to, if it's on the west-hand side of the cone, that would put the Big Bend of Florida, the Florida Panhandle in play, and then that would be a later landfall. That would be a Thursday landfall for you. And we'll look at this in just a second in more detail. Rainfall totals will be very dependent on the exact track the storm eventually takes. But in general, you're looking at 4 to 6 in many spots, and the pink areas get up to 8 to 10 to 12 inches of rain. So we may very well see a foot of rain, and it may be more than that depending on what track. This is the European model. It cuts across the state of Florida and back into the Atlantic on a pretty good clip, so it doesn't linger over you, the Euro forecast. But you'll see here in a second, the American model has it moving up the west coast of Florida, and that would keep Florida on the wet side of the storm for perhaps an extra 12 to 24 hours and could support heavier rain. It's a very complicated steering current setup. Here's what's going on. We've got our trough to the north. That will become the main pulling force to yank this thing to the north. But in the meantime, what's happening is, can you see this clockwise rotation? These are the upper level winds at 34,000 feet. So the clockwise rotation is forecast and is already beginning to influence its track. This is going to ride up the west side of that ridge, and that's what's going to pull it north initially. It'll eventually grab that trough and get pulled north and race north. There's also another trough out here, South Texas, northern Mexico. That will also have to kick it off to the north and east. So let's put this in motion. This is Sunday. Crosses Cuba Monday, and then by Tuesday morning, it's back in the Gulf of Mexico. And this is not the Euro. This is the American model. This is the GFS. So remember, the Euro had that rain, the storm cutting across the state. So the GFS has a different solution. It keeps the storm offshore, up the east side of the Gulf of Mexico, up the western coast of the Florida Peninsula, and then it makes landfall on the Florida Panhandle. That's Thursday morning. Totally different outcome from the Euro. And of course, that will decide exactly who gets the strongest winds and the heaviest rain. But you can see how this is all working together now. Here's the ridge. On the backside of the ridge, that's helping to pull it north. Trough digs, it's grabbing it as well. At this point, the storm's accelerating, and this trough out to the west is putting a front through here, and that's blocking everything off to the north and east. So it will be the eastern, we're very certain it's going to be the eastern Gulf of Mexico, Florida, taking the brunt of the storm. It's just a matter of exactly where. And if this American run is correct, and it's a little more western track, this sends a strong circulation, remnant circulation, up into the Virginias, Ohio, Pennsylvania, through Tennessee and Kentucky. This is going into Friday, Saturday of next week. This is Saturday, the 1st of October. If this scenario plays out with that low-level circulation and all this jet energy above, and notice how the winds are spreading out here, this is a significant tornado and flash flooding threat for the Mid-Ohio Valley going into Saturday, the 1st of October. Something for you guys to pay very close attention to. So it's not just Florida watching this. Tennessee Valley, Ohio Valley, the Virginias up the Appalachian Spine, you could see significant weather out of what's going to be Ian. Races up and eventually up on through to Nova Scotia and up into Newfoundland. Let's look at the American and GFS models more closely. So this will show you how the uncertainty in the model runs and the uncertainty in the track is going to play out. We're southwest of Jamaica. That Sunday is a tropical storm. Passing by Cayman as a Cat 1 hurricane Monday. Crosses Cuba Tuesday. And then here we are with one scenario, the American model off well to the west of Key West, but the Euro, you take a direct hit Key West from a Category 2 hurricane. That's Wednesday. So if the Euro's right, Wednesday night, you know, it's going to be the west side of the peninsula south of Tampa that ends up getting a hurricane. If the GFS is right, you wake up Thursday and we've still got a hurricane here off the coast of Florida, just west of Tampa. Big Bend and the Florida Panhandle is in play then for a Thursday night, Friday landfall. And then in interior portions of Georgia into the Carolinas, significant rotation. That's a tornado threat. As it moves inland, here it is moving through Ohio, through the Virginias, up the spine of the Appalachian. Flash flooding threat, tornado threat. That's Saturday, the 1st of October. And then eventually opening up and racing off to the north and east. So there are a lot of moving parts and a lot of different little changes, subtleties that will make a huge difference in who exactly gets what from what's going to be eventually Hurricane Ian. Read your comments. I'll read your comments. We will keep you posted over the weekend. Until then, stay close to the weather, stay safe, and stay weather smart, and we'll update you through the weekend.